All right, 12 weeks in. That just doesn't seem real. Once again, we're here. I'm joined this week by Drew England and Chris with the Horns Down podcast. Guys, before we jump into all of this, and there is a lot for us to discuss. I mean, every week it seems like there's something more for us to talk about than the week prior. Let the people know where they can find all your great content. Drew, I'll start with you, then down to Chris.
Hey guys, what's up? I am the host of the Under Official Review podcast. We do about 2 episodes a week, a preview and a recap. Me and my buddy Zach Merrill, we talk all things college football. You can find us on YouTube, our YouTube channel. Just search the Under Official Review podcast. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Go subscribe, give us a like, comments, all that stuff. We have a good time over there.
Yes, sir. Always a great time.
Hey guys, you can find me at the Horns Down Pod on Twitter, at Crystal Decay is on the screen, and you also can find us at the Horns Down Podcast on YouTube. Obviously, you can find us on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're looking for your podcast. Just find us on there. Definitely go check out our videos. Got a lot of great content. Our recap video that we did for the OSU game kicking off, and we talked about some recruiting, different things like that. So definitely go check it out, like, subscribe, follow, and do all that. Also, Drew, before I get out of here, for sure, gotta have you on the episode, man. We gotta do some collab. Yeah. We gotta collab.
And not only all that, but he's the best dressed man in the room this evening. Goodness gracious!
Yeah, I'm wearing my beanie. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Chris. Yeah.
This is what a stream deck.
We'll have one of these days. We'll all have a suit and tie episode. So
honest to God, you let it know, and I got you. Day, thank you so much. I would love to learn more about the streaming aspect of this, man. I'll keep hitting you up on Twitter because I got a lot I got to figure out, man. Any help I could get, I need it. Goodness gracious. Says Peyton Bowen flip incoming. Well, you are hitting the topic we're about to jump into. Hey, Matt, thank you for joining us this evening. Well, guys, look, college football has been incredible. It's been the gift that's kept on giving, and we could talk for about 4 hours just this evening about scheme alone from this past week. I mean, we could probably talk for this whole time just about the Oklahoma game and some of the scheme things we saw in that game, but we got to talk about recruiting. Early National Signing Day, right around the corner. Recruiting is about to go wild, guys. I mean, with the existence of the transfer portal now, with NIL in another year of maturity, this year is going to be incredible. And we need to start it off with Oklahoma. Y'all have had an unbelievable weekend, hosted a ton of great visitors. I think y'all are in a real good spot for a bunch of those guys. I'll let y'all speak to that. I don't have any inside information. I'm just reading the tea leaves. And I don't think it takes a genius to read the tea leaves and figure out OU is in a really good spot for some of the biggest names. But even outside of that, guys, y'all get a defensive lineman out of California, Ashton Sanders, really like that. And then you double down with Taylor Wine today. So, Drew, talk to me about Oklahoma recruiting right now because, geez, what a few days.
Yeah, and this was something we talked about last week too, and the momentum that we needed coming into this weekend, knowing that we had those big time recruits on campus. Getting the win against Oklahoma State, the crowd, the atmosphere was great. I mean, I was all up in it and loved it. Endured the cold, all that stuff, but it was worth it. We came out of this weekend very hot and in a great spot. I'm not ready to call anything. Obviously, I know some stuff, talking to some people, things like that. But we are in a great position for both of those big time 5 stars with David Hicks coming back in town. It was huge to get him back in the building again after obviously the flip to Texas A&M, stuff like that, and the fact that he was even still in contact with Oklahoma was a good sign. But obviously, anytime you get him back on campus is great. All indications he had a great visit, and then obviously the guy that's close to you, Peyton, down there in Denton,
right down the street. My goodness,
yeah, right down the street. Peyton Bowen had a great. Had a great visit, everything like that. He's had multiple visits. I think he has a house in Norman now. I don't know, but he had a great time by what I've heard and everything like that. And Ty's video I think just came out here this afternoon. I think he did a good job of breaking stuff down. And yeah, like he said, just reading the tea leaves on some of these situations. And we are excited. We're excited and we're in definitely a good spot for both those guys, and maybe another one or two.
Where did Ty go?
Oh, he left. I don't know. I guess it's our show now, Chris. What'd you think of think of the weekend and the recruiting?
Oh man, the weekend of recruiting was a boom, man. I think a lot of those recruits, talking to PG, talking to Jay, but PG was there at the game with some of the recruits as well. And just the atmosphere, they love the atmosphere. They love seeing. They saw the vision. They saw exactly what this defense can look like whenever you're just clicking on all cylinders. And even you can go back to the Billy Bowman play, even though that was kind of a busted coverage on the cat blitz they try to run from the outside. Billy Bowman showed his ball hawking skills.
Oh, what a play!
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because he was on almost the opposite hash and read that all the way.
It was a cover 3, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was a roll. He basically rolled himself over to that side. Yeah. And I mean, we were in that end zone too and watched it. I said, watch, Billy's gonna go make a play on the ball right here. And it was great. His instincts was great on that play. And
that's an NFL play.
Have the turnovers that we did on defense was huge, especially for those big time defensive recruits that were in town too to see that.
Well, the Sunday after the game, I mean, from early hours, I'm talking like 2 a.m. stuff like that. Message boards are going crazy because information is coming out. These, you got Hicks and you got Bowen. Obviously, a lot of people believe that's the case. A lot of people believe that you're in on Samford as well, Hicks' best friend, a linebacker.
I think you're much more than in. There have been crystal balls flipping to Oklahoma's favor.
So, and a lot of people think that
good looking out, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of people think that that's like a 2-for-1 deal as well. So the whole thing is that you can get them. I don't know if you guys have saw much of Dolby's tape, the cornerback out of NEO.
Dolby, he's a good player. Absolutely.
Has a motor, looks like he knows what he's doing. Ty, if you go watch some of his film, you'll see on some plays where it's like, okay, that was a team play, and then you'll see plays where you say that was just he recognized it, he knew right away where it was going.
Well, and to have another veteran type of player in there on the defensive side to add to some of this young talent is great, and I think the way they're piecing some of that together hopefully is going to be good too. But Kendall's a baller, and
I don't think he's necessarily just a corner. I think he also can play multiple positions in that second.
I think you can find him in that nickel spot certainly, and some other places. Yeah, that dude can go for sure.
So he's a guy like Davion Horman who could come out there and kind of be like a Swiss Army knife, especially in a 3-3-5 if that's what we're doing. But getting Taylor Wine was a key addition to this class, and also the Ashton Sanders kid, because you need a really good nose tackle to develop.
Gotta have it in that Brent Venables scheme. Gotta have it.
System. And then the Taylor Wine kid is, the intangibles are there. Ty, you said it. My uncle said it. This Wine kid and this is no slight at Colton Vasek. Colton Vasek has a huge upside, and I hope he does well at Texas. I really do.
I've remained very high on Vasek. I think I'm even a little higher than some other people. I think Vasek is good, but Chris, as you're about to say, I've been telling you, Wine. Yeah. That's a hell of a player, man.
Wine is that guy, and he has a high upside as well. Look, let's just be real. 6'6". To be able to dip and be explosive coming out of your
bend, natural.
It's crazy.
Natural.
It's crazy. And that's what OU is trying to get to. Just recruiting athletes at those positions will teach you how to play that. And here, my uncle, he pointed out something to me just probably about 45 minutes ago. What's the major difference between Vasek and Wine right now? Vasek's dad was an NFL defensive lineman, right? So he's always had that teaching, and that's no slight at him.
That and then the competition he plays. Yeah. He's well coached. Yeah. He's in a huge area. He's playing against the best, and that does count for something. But it doesn't. You get my point where I'm going with this. It doesn't count for everything. That doesn't diminish how great Wine is. But Vasek is very tested.
Yeah, and so the whole thing is that hey, you wish you could get both kids, but at the same time, this makes up for that. So. With that being said, man, you're really excited about your prospects, and you think that this class is not only going to hold up, but you're going to add some huge additions, and you're going to get a couple of key flips here in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, and guys, some of the comments in here. Keaton, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Thank you, and John, thank you for the nice words. Thank you all for getting the likes in here, guys. If you're in here, go ahead and hit that like button. Truly. YouTube's algorithm, it's wild. Likes, comments, subscriptions, that's how they get people into the algorithm now. It really has almost nothing to do with subscriptions. It's all about those interactions. But just speaking about Oklahoma, right? Just kind of my view now from the outside looking in. And Chris, you're going to hate me for saying this because you've heard me say it 100 times. So this is nothing new to you. You will have heard this. I remain shocked that people were seriously thinking, oh, well, Oklahoma is just going to fall off in recruiting after they saw how Brent Venables salvaged that class in a matter of a month when he came into Oklahoma. Like whenever that happened, I was like, guys, that shows you he can do this. Like at some level, that shows you that this is the right guy. Give him time. He obviously knows how to do one of the most important things in college football, build relationships. Now, this is something I haven't talked about a lot. Chris, I think I've talked to you about this. I said it in a comment. My old roommate camped at Clemson when he was coming out of high school. He was an unbelievable football player. I was lucky enough that both my former roommates played college football. I'm nowhere near athletic enough to even think about playing college football. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, but I was around people who played the game, right? So I've been inundated with it. Whenever he would talk about camping at Clemson, he had such positive things to say about Brent Venables. And it wasn't even the coaching. He had great things to say about the coaching. It was, hey, the way he talked to the players, like not even the way he coached us, the way he galvanized people, the way he talked to people. He had such high reviews on Brent Venables, so much so that he always was a Clemson fan, not solely because of Brent Venables. It was Dabo. It was the whole crew. He had major just positive reviews after that. Yeah. So I always kind of knew, okay, Brent Venables is going to be able to recruit with the best of them. One thing we've talked about, does record matter in recruiting? The answer to this is yes and no. More no than yes. Let me explain, though, why yes is a little bit into this. Both Oklahoma and A&M aren't having the seasons they thought. Now, A&M's season is exponentially worse than Oklahoma's, and they don't belong in the same sentence. I'm only putting them in the same sentence to prove a point here. So if anybody's thinking I'm comparing them, I'm not. One is way worse than the other. My point here is this. The reason why I'm not worried about Oklahoma losing recruits, even if they were to lose their next game, is because when you look at this staff, there isn't all the outside noise. There isn't all the outside chaos. There's a level of buy-in year one from not only the players, from the community, from the organization, from the institution. You don't see that elsewhere. So we have to ask these questions. Is winning important? Yes and no. But why is winning important? Because winning typically means you're at a consistent university, consistent in both results and consistent in development. Yeah. Oklahoma is going to be consistent in development this year, even if the results aren't there. That means something to these recruits, guys. That really does mean something. Yeah. It really, really does mean something. Well, and Eric, you're right.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Is being able, some of these recruits and players want to see progress. They want to see things doing well. And after Saturday, even a little positive thing out of the defense is there's progress there. And there's a guy who has a track record of coaching the heck out of some defense, and I have to respond to this and some of these guys. And so it as long as it continues to trend up and they can, like Chris said earlier, see the vision, which a lot of them really saw that on Saturday, you're going to still have that momentum. And then when you have guys that are teammates with each other, it makes it even, easier when like a Peyton Bowen and a Jackson Arnold talk every single day and things like that. And it builds so much momentum for you guys because you're winning in high school and you're like, hey, we could go do this at OU together. Let's roll,
Well, and then this is Trojan. I'm going to disagree with you. And I actually think in a way you prove my exact point. He says, as a UFC fan who lived through Clay Helton era, win losses absolutely and record absolutely matters. SC lost Bryce Young due to a losing season. No, you lost Bryce Young because there was no hope evident anywhere. Things didn't look like they were getting better. There was no hope.
Bryce Young because of the way that you ran your offense.
Yes, it wasn't just if you were losing, but the Bryce Young sat there and said, hey, they're not good this year, but next year they're building towards something. You would have had Bryce Young. You weren't building towards anything. And that's why you lost him. So you're Trojan, you are right. And that's why I say, do win-loss matter? Yes and no. Oh. It matters a bit, but if you're building towards something and people can see that, it means something.
Ty, one more thing. Clay Helton was Clay Helton USC was pre-NIL era also. And then
that's a great point.
That is a great point. Yes.
I think another point of interest is that I can't help but get them out of my mind. But you look at a team like Iowa, right? There are certain positions on their team that guys still go there to play, right? Tight end, offensive line, and they get drafted highly, right? So, like you said, I think it's more about the outside noise and just what's going on. I mean, the thing that you really have to ask about Texas A&M, put the record aside, put all our jokes about Jimbo and all that aside.
Wait, y'all are joking? Y'all are joking?
No, I'm being serious. Put all that aside, and
he's seriously joking.
Let's just say the question that you have to ask about Texas A&M right now is it a toxic environment, not only for the recruits but for the coaching staff?
Yeah, is it trending in an upward direction? My answer would be no.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, unless you're Desmond Howard and picked them to go in the college football playoff at the beginning of the year.
Wild. Trojan, I do grant you this. I've highlighted that. That is if and I've said this before. I'm a debater. I think of everything in terms of this. That was the argument to counter what I said, right? Like if you lost him last minute, that leaves opening for what you're saying. Now, I still do lean on what I said because I think I can give you more examples than USC, but that is a really, really good point, Trojan. I absolutely grant you that. Yeah. And like Big Smash says, you have to look at regimes. BV's in his first year. And Matt, you said this earlier. A bunch of people pointed this out earlier. So I want to give credit where it's due. Jimbo's in his fifth year and nothing is improved. Right. And that's just the reality of the situation. But guys, it was not just Oklahoma getting some big recruiting wins. Florida State, huge flip right before we went live. Brought Glenn, 4-star quarterback, flips from Ohio State to Florida State. I don't think Ohio State is going to be hurting too bad. They've recruited the quarterback position at an elite level. Would they like to have him? I'm sure. He looks like a fantastic prospect.
Yeah. I think McCord is going to be there for a couple of years anyways.
Yeah.
So I like McCord an awful lot.
And this brings up another point.
You're talking
about recruiting and schools like Texas A&M, Oklahoma, stuff like that. But I'll be very interested to see Mario Cristobal and the trajectory that Miami is on, and see if he can turn that thing around, because it was he really had the tires smoking when he got in there, and it's kind of cooled off a little bit. And hopefully this offseason he might be able to get some momentum and things like that going. But yeah, it'll be very interesting. I'll be watching Miami's how they're going to recruit and what he's going to do there.
I'm confident in not only Venables,
Kirby. You crack me up, man. I love when you get in here.
I'm confident in Kirby. I mean, not Kirby. I'm confident in Venables and Cristobal.
Yeah.
I think the question that a lot of people are going to have about them, are they the guys who can correct your program and get them trending back in the direction that they used to be in? Yes.
Yeah.
Are they championship level coaches? That is yet to be seen, right?
No
Still
doubt.
got to give them more time at those programs.
Yeah.
We've seen more of Cristobal, but I think that right now, But I will say
the situation that he's in, he's going back to his alma mater. We've seen that with other coaches where they've had success at other places, went back to their alma mater, as like Scott Frost, for example, a couple other people, and it just didn't work out. Now, do I think that that's going to happen with Cristobal? I mean, I don't know. I think that he's established himself at a bigger program than maybe some of these other guys, and he's already done that, and so he maybe has a leg up. But that'll be very interesting to see if he can keep that momentum going at Miami and being able to be the guy that everybody hopes he can be down there.
And it's Bezo. Look, I get what you're saying. BB has 3 national championships. Look, I get that.
He hasn't done it as a head coach.
As a head coach, that's going to be the knock.
And that's a different animal,
Yeah, that's a different animal.
It is.
That's going to be the knock on him until he gets one. But I want to go.
And
back
that doesn't diminish what he has, but it is.
No. That's not. We're not digging. No. But it's just it's as a coach.
Yeah.
You can win one a lot easier as an assistant coach than you can a head coach, because as a head coach, you're establishing your program and your staff and you're all that. So yeah,
I would certainly bet on him being able to get one, though.
No doubt.
I would.
Now I'll say this right here. I'll say that dang Trojan down there. But anyways, I was going to say this right here. Mike Norvell. Not only did he save his job, but he probably saved his ass, because I mean,
what a year.
Yeah. To be able to have this team do that and know that you have to look over your shoulder down there at Jackson State, knowing that coach Primetime has went 11-0 and is definitely getting a lot of looks from a lot of P5 schools. I mean, hey, you're doing what you need to do. Can he keep this up? Because everybody's going to have really big expectations for Florida State next year.
Yep. And if he tanks and Deion is still at Jackson State, boy, that's going to leave a door wide open for some talk for sure.
And I'm telling you now, I just said it on the phone when I was talking to my uncle before I jumped on here. Anytime that Deion Sanders gets any job in Florida, let alone Florida State, y'all better shut down the gates to y'all cities, because he's going to recruit at an all-time.
And he could do that too at Georgia Tech too.
Yeah,
because Atlanta, he's the dude. He could be the dude in Atlanta as well.
I'm just saying, man.
Deion's no, I'm not disagreeing at all. I actually had a thought on someone for the Georgia Tech job, but I want to make sure before I say the name, I'm right in this connection, that they have an actual connection. Working Man, thank you for joining in on the stream tonight. Great to have you here. What happens if Brent V gets a QB like Kyler, Baker, Hurts, or Caleb when your team puts 50 on everybody? What then? Oh, I mean, I think, Matt, that question goes for anybody, though, right? Like, what happens when you get a rarefied air quarterback? You're looking good. The thing with Brent Venables' defense, though, is that you want that to get implemented. That way you don't rely on a quarterback that's the exception as opposed to the rule. That's the beauty of Brent Venables, and that's why you're excited for him. No doubt about it. No doubt about that.
Yep.
Guys, though, we got to talk about the game that happened. I mean, y'all, first quarter, and I'm not trying to say this is a dig, I don't know that you could script a better first quarter. In all of college football, that went about as well as it could have gone. Chris, talk to me, man. I know you were at home. It was cold. I don't blame you one bit.
Oh, no, I was still over here on my couch just going crazy. I mean, it got wild. It felt like the 2020 game, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we had all the momentum in the world. I mean, we literally, in that first quarter and a half, we left about 14 points out there on the field with the fumble by Brady Willis. And then, I forgot the other play that cost us some points. I think was it a drop? No. Either way, I mean, Levy was locked and ready. He was focused. He knew the task. He put a lot of stress on those corners, and he really challenged them as well. The run game wasn't super efficient, but it didn't have to be, because you were able to pass the ball and you were able to make that secondary look sparse. Spencer Sanders, I still say it all the time. A lot of people tell me, oh, no, Spencer Sanders has improved. Has he improved? Yes. But in big games,
he's still so inconsistent.
He's still really inconsistent, and it shows. I don't know what it was about our defense, but it's like we knew every play they were going to run. All the underneath stuff. That's coming into this game. That's what I thought would be the key. Can we stop their underneath stuff? Can we control their run game like we should? And can we stop their intermediate passing game? We all know that Gundy wants to take the roof off the defense, but with Spencer Sanders, he has to work the field every drive just to kind of get in the rhythm, in my opinion. So you were able to really neutralize that. And then with the defense, I wouldn't even necessarily say, you know what? Yeah, I will say progress, but I'm going to say progress from individuals that we really, quote unquote, shit on early in the season. Deshaun White understands that cheetah position now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's natural, though. And I told you and Drew and Jay, the linebackers, y'all's linebackers were going to get picked on early in the season. And remember, I told you this, one of the first, but no, don't worry. They're going to grow. That's just this scheme. I'm an Alabama fan. Anytime we have a new linebacker in, it is pain for about the first two games.
No. I think the biggest difference in that game for us defensively was the fact that we were able to get a considerable pass rush. I mean, hell, we had 6 sacks that game.
Yep.
And you saw it from Kelly, you saw it from Redmond, and guys were able to get in the backfield and really put a helmet on them, put a hand on them. I mean, Spencer Sanders, even though the 4 picks and all the rest of the stuff that you can say, it was still a gutsy performance because he got his ass kicked out there. Yep. He was on the ground.
I mean, he was a gutsy quarterback.
He was the only guy out there making plays for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And that was the difference, is that he was, I mean, I give it to him. Hats off to you. You were doing the best you could to try to win the game, but that's why they scored 13 points, is they didn't have the run game. They had a few big pass
Jesus
plays,
Christ.
Oh, yeah. And but yeah, I mean, Spencer was out there just doing his best. I mean, he's got a bum shoulder. I mean, he did everything he could to try to win the game for Oklahoma State. They underachieved again, and just not the pieces that have been there for them in the past, especially on defense, and then obviously a new defensive coordinator and things like that. But yeah, I mean, he gutted it out. He did the best he could, but he probably needs to stay away from the microphones during press conferences too. So that might be a
I have a very quick takeaway from this game, and I sent the messages to Chris. Those 2 touchdowns y'all had, one to Farouk, one to Drake Stoops, beautifully designed. And I would love nothing more than for me not to get demonetized by YouTube instantly, than for me to be able to do a whole episode breaking down those plays. And if I figure out how to do that without YouTube just railroading me, I'm going to do that, because those plays from a X's and O's standpoint were beautiful. That Farouk touchdown, that Stoops touchdown. Yep. I have a theory. I have a hypothesis, right? I'm going to call it a hypothesis because I haven't really fully tested it. I was rewatching the game against Oklahoma State today before I left to go running around errands with my fiance and my mom, but I got about halfway through the third quarter, and I'm noticing something really pertinent with Oklahoma's offense, and it has to do with first down. And I'm very interested to do a real deep dive into the rest of y'all's season to see when the offense goes into these inconsistent spurs. Yeah. And I'm noticing a really big trend where if Sooners do not have a successful first down, it almost spirals, like without fail. Yeah. It is almost without fail. If there's a negative or net zero play on first down, it goes down. But if you can get that offense clicking in first down, it's going. Now, don't quote me on that, because I like I said, in order for me to comfortably say that with full certainty, I'm going to need to do the whole season. But it was enough to where I was like, okay, circle it again, check.
Well,
check.
And that's a good point too, because it leads to those eye-opening third and fourth down conversions where we were 1 of 14 and 0 of 1 on fourth downs, and that's been the kind of consistency that we've had because we get ourselves behind the chains on first downs with it. Whether it's play calling, whether it's execution, whether it's accuracy on some of those throws and everything like that. But there's been times where we've been able to dig out of those holes. But yeah, I agree with you, and I'd have to go back and really break down the stats and see just kind of the whole synopsis of everything. But yeah, it seems to rear its ugly head, especially in those moments where you're starting 2nd and 13, somewhere in there, like 2nd and 9, somewhere where you're not getting a really good positive yardage on first down. And I mean, that's with any offense, but it seems to be a common theme for us this year. And hopefully we're working the kinks out of that with Jeff Lebby in his first year and everything like that, new schemes, everything like that. And obviously with the quarterback situation the way it is going into next year, it'll be interesting to see. And having these bowl practices are going to be huge for us now. Mm-hmm. I was more excited about that than I think our actual win, because I knew the young talent and the development that they're going to continue to get for the next month is going to be huge, and getting those 14, 15 practices in is very, very beneficial in our continuing uptick in Venables and his system and the staff being more just being able to be around the kids, being able to lift, being able to still build that consistency with a lot of these young guys, because we do have a lot of young guys, and 22 seniors are leaving. So it'll be a huge benefit to some of these young guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, y'all's future is looking bright because of some of those young guys. But if you can get some of those dudes to stay, I just think a year in that system would do them a lot of good, because I just think that defense is intricate. But the young guys coming up, my goodness gracious, I think you got a lot to be excited for.
Sure.
Gonna hit some comments real fast, and then we need to talk about a game. I mean, this might be the game of the week. I had USC UCLA as my game of the week, but coming out of the weekend, TCU versus Baylor, everything you could possibly want. What a phenomenal game. Let's hit the comments real quick. We have saying you need Bowen and Hicks, man. That'd be huge, huge, huge wins. Huge
I'm here
wins.
for it.
Yeah. Fatty says, how did it go with Hicks' best friend, the 4-star linebacker? If I'm not mistaken, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a crystal ball inserted on Rivals in favor of Oklahoma for Damian Sanford for the flip from Texas A&M to OU. Am I mistaken in that?
I haven't seen. I don't spend a whole lot of time over there on Rivals, to be honest. But I mean, there might be. I don't know that to be certain. We may have to fact check that one. But hey, if there is, thumbs up for me. That's great.
Don't quote me on that, but is it on 3 Sooner Cowboys? Gotcha. Perfect. He is projected to flip. Gotcha. Perfect.
All right. Hey, I'm here for it.
And that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
Well,
absolutely huge.
And two, they're we have, I think, like 21 right now committed or whatever it is, 21 guys, 22 guys.
21. I mean, 22 now with one.
Yeah, and it could very easily be in that 25 to 27 range before we get everything done. And and what I like too is our emphasis. Obviously, you're going to have that with Brent Venables, but the emphasis you have on the defensive side of the football and getting some of that young talent in the building is going to be huge. Yeah,
and the weekend y'all put together. I mean, there was a reason why I found it pertinent enough to make a video about it, because I was like, hey, this is notable. This is absolutely notable. David says, do we need to worry about Oregon for Hicks? I wouldn't worry. Could he go to Oregon? I think it's certainly a possibility. Let's give credit where it's due. Oregon has been a really good team this year. After that loss, Dan Lanning is having a really good first year. And Oregon can recruit really well. Now, would I be worried personally? And I have no inside information. This is me reading the tea leaves, coming forthright. I would put Oregon 2 or 3 with Oklahoma the most likely. If he leaves A&M, Oklahoma is probably where I think he's going to go. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about Oregon, but we can't in good consciousness say that Oregon has a 0%
with
chance.
Recruiting and the way NIL and all that stuff goes right now.
I can't in good conscience.
I mean, we didn't expect David Hicks to do what he did on, his commitment day, but hey, it's not out of the realm of possibilities, certainly.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see. I'm hitting someone. Okay, so we're going to talk about Texas real fast because we have a very special guest going to be joining us to talk some TCU, which you guys are going to love. But truth, I hit up Texas Homer after this Texas-Kansas game, and I told him, and whether it was true or not, I don't know. I'd heard rumors that about 45 minutes after the game, Bijan Robinson was still running rampant through the state of Kansas, and nobody could stop him.
Can I please take this over?
Yeah.
I gotta say something. I gave Texas fans a lot of crap for that. And I called my aunt. My aunt called me. He said, hey, man. He said, you watching this Kansas game? I said, Unc, man, I had to turn it off. I was like, at one point, I looked up and I said, I don't think they've thrown the ball for the last 2 quarters. I was like, it got personal out there.
Well, I mean, why would you?
I'm just saying it got personal out there. I mean, not saying it was chippy. I'm just saying like they lined up and they said, I'm going to run it down your throat.
We are not losing 3 in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. They would run with Bijan, let him get knocked around a couple of times, and he bounces off guys and goes for another 4 or 5, 8 yards, 12 yards. Here comes Roschon Johnson coming in.
He had over 100 yards too, didn't he?
Yeah. They would the only time they got finesse is when they threw little out routes to Keelan Robinson.
Yeah, they were like, hey, we need some love out here.
It got personal out there. I was like, Sark came in here and just said, look, we just running the ball. I'm not about to play. Yeah, it was. At one point, I got to look away. I was like, this is messy out here.
Now, guys, I got to know, because personally, I think he's got the ability, but we kind of know what this award is. Bijan to New York. Is that crazy? I mean, I think he's got all the ability to deserve to be in New York, but has he had the season? Has he had the season to be a giant? That was good.
I'll think a Heisman, but I don't know. I don't
right,
know.
because I think I think we could all agree on the panel. He's got the ability to be in New York. There is no question.
Absolutely,
about that.
No doubt about it.
No question about that.
Yeah.
But has he had the stats? That's where this gets interesting. And Chris, to your point, I think there's an argument you could say no. I think that there's an argument for yes, but it's interesting, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if the stats have been there. I think he's had kind of a quiet year, but at the same time, he hasn't really had a game where you're just like, oh my God,
Well,
he hasn't really had.
I think this was the first
game he hasn't really had like a Heisman moment.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say per se.
I mean, if he would have had a couple, maybe 200+ yard games, then you'd be saying that, but like, I think it draws comparison to when Adrian Peterson was a freshman at OU, him going into Texas. I think when he had 225 against Texas as a freshman, that type of stuff really gets you, notice. Not a guy who has come in and he was already expected to do this stuff. And so I think he was put himself behind the 8 ball with a lot of this because of the expectations that everybody had on him coming into the year as a Heisman front runner, if you will, and stuff like that. And so I think that's where a lot of where he ran into some of the issues is where, it was just expected. Oh, he finally rushed for 220 yards. That's what we expected him to do. And so I think that was a lot of it too, was the huge expectations he had. And for obviously for Texas too, coming into the season.
It's interesting. A lot of people in the chat saying Caleb Williams and guys after that game he had against UCLA. It's certainly hard to argue it. And, I'm not going to say, I think critical a strong word of Caleb, but I've said it on live before. Chris and I've had this conversation and I've admitted to it. I think Caleb has the highest ceiling in terms of any quarterback in college football. I still thought he needed a bit of development though, which guys, that's not exactly a crazy thought. The kid didn't have a senior year of high school football and he played half a season at Oklahoma, right? So still so young, but that game he put together against UCLA was about the most complete football game I've seen from Caleb. The decisions he was making, the moments, that was a Heisman game. And hey, hats off to you.
The interception he threw, that was the one that I was going to say. I was going to tell you personally. I was like, Ty, I see what you're saying. It does look like but I mean, that's what we kind of say about the Lincoln Riley offense. Exactly. I mean, you can see it with his brother too. They have options on top of those routes, and you're either throwing them open or you're throwing to a certain spot that you feel like, okay, they're going to be open.
Well, they know that void is going to be there because they're running either the safety off or they're playing chicken over there with a corner. So
exactly.
Yeah.
What I said.
That's great concepts, man.
I was just going to say, to piggyback off what you said, Ty, I've told you time and time again, that's what Lincoln Riley's offense is predicated on. They're going to put stress on your safeties. They'll run 2 twin seam routes if they can, just to fool your safety, just to put stress on him and say, hey, one of these guys is going for a vertical or an orbit route, and the other guy is going to be running and doing a deep out or like a post route, right? And you're having to figure out, what do I do? Because I don't have any help right now, right? So you still see some of those flaws come up, but I mean, I've said it all along. I thought Caleb Williams would probably be your Heisman. I know a lot of people.
You did.
Well, and especially after the week and it sucks because he's had such a great year. Hendon Hooker and then Drake May. Obviously, those two guys having a down week.
That's the name, Drake May.
He's going to be there. He's going to find himself, and then hopefully, he can continue this success this year into next year because he's so young too as well. And everything, but with Hendon Hooker going out, I think obviously it's a 2-man race now between CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams to see, and then obviously they both have really good games coming up. They both play ranked matchups the next couple weeks, and so it's going to be, hey, who's gonna step ahead of these guys. Obviously, marquee matchup with Ohio State coming up and Michigan, and then Notre Dame and USC coming up, and then they both have conference championships ahead. So it's going to be a fun one down the last 2 weeks of the season to see who can do that. But I think it's those two guys right now.
Ty, can we talk about that a little bit before your special guest comes on? I'm eager to see who this is. Can we talk about that?
TCU?
No. Oh yeah. Well, I was going to say, can we talk about Michigan and Ohio State?
We'll get there. Get there. There's a conversation that needs to be had. Guys, joining the stream with us this evening, former TCU safety Denzel Johnson in the building with us tonight. Denzel, how you doing? I know you're feeling good after TCU won.
Hey, man, you see what I got on, man.
I know. I already see you.
I represent for my boys, man.
Yeah.
I'm good, though. I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Man, I bet. So, man, talk to me. Tell me about what you were thinking, because that game came down to the wire, and I was in the process of texting you when they ran off the field and the field goal kicker was coming on. I stood up and grabbed my phone and was like, okay, I got to text Denzel. I got to see what he's doing. By the time they made it, so much time had passed because I was in here going crazy. I think I ended up texting you like 20 minutes later. So much time had passed. But what were you thinking when you saw all that?
Well, just that last drive, I was really distraught because I was wondering why he ran the ball. They did the spike, and then they ran the ball after that, and then they ran on the field and kicked the field goal. I didn't understand that situation in that play call. If me personally, I wouldn't have did that. I mean, if you went ahead and stopped the clock, you might as well kick the field goal at that point in time, and go ahead and squib kick it or whatever. But that was real gutsy because that was like a really true walk-off win, which is crazy.
Man, and TCU, it just feels like everything is lining up. Now, I want to hear from the locker room perspective of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going through the year, you're playing all these games, you're getting these close wins. How do you feel if you're in that locker room? I mean, it almost feels like it's divine intervention, right? Like it's meant to happen, that it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I will touch on that because I feel like in my 2014 year when I was with TCU, we kind of had that,
Yeah, y'all did.
We had that little magic in the locker room, that camaraderie between, the whole team, where it was like, it seemed like everything went right. And, if it was one of those 50-50 things, it always seemed to tip to your side or to your favor. But I feel like if you have any kind of, winning season like this where you don't lose, it's always going to be like that in that way. But I mean, when you really can't say nothing about it. You just got to roll with it.
Yeah.
Got to win the games that are in front of you. And, there's two sides to this, right? I know the committee likes style points, and I get that. But at the same time, teams like TCU, we know they're battle tested. We know that when everything hits the wall, they've been there before, right? It's just like in fighting, man. We talk about this all the time. When you're watching UFC, it might be a young guy. He's coming into the UFC, all the hype in the world. He gets cracked once. How's he going to respond? He's never been cracked by a dude like that in front of him. It's a totally different level. What are you going to do now? We know what TCU is going to do. We've seen them get cracked, and they just look right back at you and keep coming. That means something, and that's why I think TCU has been the Cinderella team this year. Now, how do you think it's going to go at the Big 12 championship, man? How confident are you feeling there?
I'm feeling pretty confident, man. Shoot, I mean, I feel like they've proven to me these last 5 games, coming back to win in the fourth quarter. What I think out of the last 6 games, they came back on 5 of them. So, I mean, I feel like just like you said, they're battle tested. I mean, anytime they get hit in the mouth, I mean, they respond every single time. May not like it because, they kind of start off slow sometimes. But, I mean, that second half, they make their second half adjustments and come out, firing on all cylinders. So, yeah. I'm pretty confident.
Hey, I got to ask.
I was going to say, we're talking about the Big 12 championship. What about Iowa State? Can we get some Iowa State love here? Hey.
Yeah. Hey, I got to ask, though, have you had a chance to meet Sonny Dykes, and what do you think of the job that he's done so far at TCU in his first year?
I hadn't got a chance to really – I mean, I've met him, but I hadn't got a chance to really sit down and talk to him. The only time I've talked to him is, after games. And he's having a crazy year, so – one of them things where I don't want to bother him until, the off season and talking and chopping up with him and stuff like that. Yeah. But I mean, he's doing a phenomenal job with everybody over there. Like the energy over there in the locker room, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's 100% turnaround from what it was when that last season when Coach Patterson was there. And, I played under Coach Patterson, so I got a lot of love for my dog, but
yeah. What is it? How different is it to see him in burnt orange? How difficult is that to see?
I mean, I don't like it, but I'm glad that he's staying in Texas per se because, I have a lot of, Texas fans in my family. So, I don't have a really diehard hate for Texas, but, it's always better to see him in that, in that purple. But he's doing a good job over there. So,
yeah.
I think it was really cool. A few games ago, TCU, was it when they were playing Kansas? Texas finished early, and TCU was in the waning moments of that game, and there was a clip of Gary Patterson walking up to someone on the sideline. They said, "Oh, a great game," and he said, "What's the score to the TCU game?" Like, that's all he was interested in is, hey, what's the score to that TCU? And I thought that was so cool because Gary Patterson, and Denzel, you and I have talked about this before. He's a coach that I think on the national level doesn't get the respect he's due. What he did in terms of development, what he did for the nickel defense, what he did for defense in college football was revolutionary. And he's a name that I've never really felt like got the respect he deserved. Whenever you saw TCU move on from Gary Patterson, how surprised are you that after Gary Patterson, they go to Sonny Dykes, and already this is the results we're seeing?
I will tell you that nobody in the nation would ever predicted this. You can't predict that. I mean, they were 5-7 last year, and then they're 11-0 now. I mean, this is really crazy. So, I mean, it's something that you really can't predict this fast of a turnaround. I mean, he's gotten he has a older team. He has a lot of juniors and seniors. He has a lot of, transfers and stuff that, really helped out. But it's really, I feel like it's just getting the whole team and the whole organization over there just to buy in, and I mean, they're all doing it. And whenever you buy in, it's really, that makes all the difference. I'm telling you that right now, buying in and, listening to everything that the coaches is telling you and really saying, okay, I'm going with this 100%. Like, I'm not going to do this over here. I'm going with this because I'm going to go with the plan. Hey.
Yeah, I have been blown away by TCU every week. And I tweeted out this week, I asked, can you have a bad time watching TCU? Well, the answer is yes. If you're Baylor or any of the other teams in the Big 12 that played them that day, you probably didn't have a very good time. But the rest of college football, we had a blast watching TCU. Yes, Chris, I'm looking at you. Yes, Chris, I'm looking at you. You may be the best dressed on this panel, but that doesn't mean I haven't forgotten.
Look. I know your friend is on here. That's fine. I don't buy it. Max Duggan is going to appear. The real Max Duggan will stand up at some point. And when he does,
just because the man is white and has some light hair doesn't mean he's Eminem, Chris. Not every white person in the world with light hair is Eminem.
I'm just saying the real Max Duggan will show himself. Okay, he will appear this season at the most inopportune time.
Hey, and in no way am I comparing him to Stetson Bennett, but this is a trajectory that a lot of people thought Georgia was on last year. And they were like, no way Stetson Bennett can win a game for Georgia. And sure enough, he did. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see, man. I'm definitely rooting for the kid and hopefully, things are going on. But I find that interesting in a comparison that, Stetson Bennett was an older guy and had his chances and stuff like that. And, he was just proving people wrong. And you got to have a respect for guys that just go out there and ball out and say, you know what? I don't care what you think of me. I'm going to go out and do my thing. And, I respect the heck out of that. So
that's what makes college football special, man.
So, yeah.
Now, I don't know if y'all saw it, but did y'all see the post-game interview with Max Duggan when he went to the panel with Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Urban Meyer, and sat down? Denzel, did you see that?
I did not see it.
In about 15 seconds of watching that, I got it. I was like, I get why his team galvanizes around him like that.
Yeah, they push that dude, man.
Every bit of praise they laid on him, the first thing out of his mouth is, I got great guys. I really, it's not me. I have the ability to be put in a great position by my coach, and I have the ability to be put in a great position by the guy. Every single answer, without fail, it was automatic to him. By the end of it, I was ready to run through a brick wall for him. I'm not running, period. So that says something. I get the Max Duggan. After I saw that, I think he's a really, really charismatic individual. And that's what makes college football special, man, is stories like Max Duggan and Stetson Bennett, right?
Well, Sooner Cowboy made a comment. Yes, obviously Georgia's defense did play a part in that, but Stetson Bennett made some great plays down the stretch and was a big part of their success in the college football playoff. Let's not be, naive to think that he didn't go out there and make some plays.
Jason, and I will say this, we can talk about injuries all we want. Alabama wide receivers dropped passes in the end zone. Opportunities were still there, and they didn't take advantage of them. If the opportunities weren't there, I'd be much more willing to grant injuries cost Bama the national championship. But if you have opportunities and you don't take them, that's on you. That's on the better team won that day, and
having 17 penalties in a game, that also is not a good recipe.
Oh, don't tell me that. Let's not talk about that. Hey, I've already forgotten about
that. We had to throw some shots back that way,
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's move on before we start talking about more of Alabama's woes. Let's talk about someone else's woes. That's my favorite.
Yeah, let's
thing,
all
right?
hop on the A&M.
Yeah, let's talk about someone else's woes. Denzel, have you heard of what's going on around A&M right now? Have you paid attention to their season this year?
I know that they are really, really bad.
That might be an understatement.
That's an understatement. Yeah, they're pretty bad. Man, it has been a wild ride. Denzel, I gotta get your thoughts on this because you played in the locker room and granted, from the outside looking in, it looks so sewed up, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it just looked about its business. The way y'all showed up on Saturdays, you just were like, man, that's a business. That's not a football team. That's a corporation with business. When I watch A&M this year, it seems like the total opposite. I got to get your opinion on this, man. I need to know from a former player how damning this is. So over the course of this year for A&M, we've had multiple things happen off the field that has been really distracting. First and foremost, you have the video from a player on their team speeding through a parking garage. I think, did you see that one?
Oh, yeah.
And he's just going, all right, that's dumb, but it is what it is. That same player then breaks curfew. That same week, with a bunch of other freshmen, they all get suspended for the game. Well, Jimbo's offense isn't going anywhere. Nothing's happening. One of the freshmen likes a tweet of a bit Josh Pate did. Josh Pate is one of the best in the industry. Unbelievable at college football analysis. Josh Pate did a bit saying offense in college football isn't difficult. If you have a jug of milk that says it expired in 2014, what are you going to do? You're going to throw it away. So throw away that 2014 playbook and get a new one is basically what he was saying to Jimbo. You had Texas A&M players liking that video, and you can see people's likes on Twitter. So, that got figured out. Then on top of that, Denzel, I don't know if you heard about this. They had players get caught smoking weed in the opponent's locker room in an away game. And then on top of that, a player was suspended for wearing sleeves. Jimbo told the media, we're going to handle it internally. That player hit Twitter not 25 minutes later and said, I was suspended for wearing arm sleeves.
Yeah, he got it internal, all right.
So as a former player, am I reading too much into this when I say there's fire all around College Station right now? Like, this is not good. Am I off base? Like, how much of this is just normal locker room stuff that's usually kept under wraps? And how much of this is really like, there might be a fire down there?
Well, I will say not everything always gets out. So whatever has gotten out, there's a lot more
that hasn't gotten out. Yeah.
Yeah. There's more that's gotten out. So wherever there's smoke, there's fire. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. And the chat agrees with you.
Yeah. So
it's on fire.
All these problems that they're having over there, man. I mean, you have to look at the person that's in charge, to be honest. I mean, whether it's his rules or it's him or whatever it is, I mean, the team's not rallying around him, and they're just, I guess they're just being a whole bunch of knuckleheads. But, I mean, there's a way to get a lot of knuckleheads, I mean, you can look at TCU. I mean, if you want to be honest, not too many, a lot of the college football teams, they're all the same. They're all going to be, a whole bunch of kids from different backgrounds, different, walks of life. So you're going to have a whole bunch of different attitudes on the same team. That's every team. So for the A&M to act like this, any other college team to act like this, it's usually just the leader and, everybody listening to them and, rallying around them. But, I mean, I guess Jimbo is – I don't know what's going on, but
do you think guys are just lost all the respect for him right now?
I think that's what it is, and it happens. It's not like a thing that just this never happens, but no, it happens. It happens a lot, and I mean sometimes it takes a year for it to show. Sometimes it takes a few weeks for it to show. So
Now, here's one thing I got to know, man. The one thing that never made sense to me, and I need to know from a player's perspective, when a coach gets a major contract extension, is that something in the player's mind at all? Right? Because the reason I ask you this is last year, Jimbo Fisher, they extended him at Texas A&M. Denzel, this is one of the wildest things that, and I've said this multiple times, so this isn't a new take. Texas A&M paid Jimbo Fisher like he's Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, right? They paid him a king's ransom. They fired Kevin Sumlin a few years ago. I don't know if you know this, but if we look at the first 50 games of Kevin Sumlin and Jimbo Fisher, Kevin Sumlin has more ranked wins than him. He has more road ranked wins than him. He has more wins than him, and he has less losses to group of 5 teams. Jimbo Fisher lost to a group of 5 team. Kevin Sumlin never did. Now, Denzel, even though all those stats are true, A&M fired one of them and then gave the other one a raise to compete with Nick Saban. If you're a player in that locker room, is that something that now expectations are, kind of permeating through to the players, or how does that work?
Well, if he got an extension after,
he got a raise for beating Bama, if we're being honest.
Well, yeah. And then the number 1 recruiting class,
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I get that. You get, he's been pretty consistent in, getting really good recruiting classes for A&M for the past few years and stuff like that. But I mean, when it boils down to wins and losses, I mean, if you really want to be honest, I mean, yeah, you beat Alabama, but so
you gotta do that consistent.
Yeah, you gotta do it consistent. But I mean, it just seems like it pretty much seems like the players didn't really like the extension. Like, I mean, I know whenever I was at TCU, I remember Coach Patterson getting an extension. And I mean, we seen it, we heard it, and we loved it. It didn't really change for us, but that's because we actually liked the coach.
Yeah.
Knew it was going to be, how the program was going to be ran, and we were, winning programs. But A&M, I mean, it might be one of those things where they just they're not too fond of Jimbo Fisher. And then once he got the extension, they're just like, okay, what can we do to get him out type of deal.
Fatty in the comment says maybe they give him another raise. It's a crazy world.
Yeah. I'd love to see that 30 for 30 too. No doubt.
Big Smash says, I swear there's going to be a 30 for 30 on Jimbo and his time is yeah, that's going to be wild. Now,
I was going to jump in here and just say about Texas A&M. I think the interesting point that we can't lose in this is we've talked about the NIL deals that they've dished out at great length. But I think one fact about it, I want to say fact, and let's just say that loosely, those are multi-year layered deals, right? To where they're basically it's like a contract almost, like, hey, as long as you're here, you're going to receive this X amount of money, and it may go up potentially with your play, right? So that's going to be something that you have to take account for whenever we're just thinking there's going to be a mass exodus of players, right? Because you got to, I mean, it's the NIL era, so you kind of got to deal with that. And I know, obviously, they want to get out of toxic environment or whatever you want to call it, but I mean, I still think that at the end of the day, those players are still going to want to get paid at some point.
No doubt. Now, one thing I'm super interested in with NIL is it legal to have a multi-year deal where all the stipulation is like you are owed? Because I mean, Chris, allow me to nerd out because I have some knowledge that's worthwhile for once in my life. Offer, acceptance, consideration is the 3 things to a contract, right? Yeah. So are all damages going to be owed if you transfer, or is it going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we're just going to pay you. If it was a 4-year deal, we're going to take 1/4 of that, which we've given you for year 1, and then you're just out of the 3/4 of it? Or what do you think that's going to look like?
I mean, I just think at the end of the day, the terms control it. I think it's something where it's kind of just like Denzel probably could attest to, just like I mean, you could sign them a letter of intent and say, oh yeah, I'm going to spend the next 4 years here, but you're having to go and sign those papers every single summer or spring or whatever to say, hey, yeah, no, I'm going to be here again next year, right? So I think it's something like that. It's just kind of tied in the same breath, if you think.
Yeah. And now, Chris, I wanted to get back to you because right before Denzel came on, you were interested in some of those Big Ten games.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that, man. What were you seeing?
So the thing to me, I think for both teams, honestly, Let's just go ahead and throw it out there. I think for Notre Dame against USC, and especially Michigan against Ohio State, I think the key to the game for Notre Dame and for Michigan, can you be physical with those wide receivers? Can you push them off their routes? Can you actually? I mean, can you be a little bit handsy? Can you get physical with them and make them uncomfortable out there? Because I think that's where the game is going to be won, because Ohio State's top running backs are pretty much injured. I don't know if TreVeyon Henderson is playing the next game. And if he is, I don't know how big of a deal he's going to be in that game. And then also with Notre Dame, I mean, I defensively, you're going to have to do something. And I think that too high safety look with a soft shell zone could probably give Caleb Williams some problems. And I think that Marcus Freeman is going to have a really good game plan for.
I'm very excited for seeing what Marcus Freeman's going to bring to the table.
That's going to be a good matchup between Lincoln Riley's offense and Marcus Freeman's defense. That'd be good. Yeah.
I just go back to when Penn State was, I think actually it was last year. Penn State was physical with those receivers from Ohio State. I mean, they pushed them. They got away with a lot of stuff, obviously, but they were able to be physical. I mean, here's kind of a strange analogy, but it's kind of like the Cleveland Cavaliers whenever they were able to actually beat Golden State. They just pushed them off the three-point line. They pushed them off the three-point line, made it difficult for them to actually get a shot up. So if you're able to actually, do some things out there, you're jamming at the line, you're doing all the things you're supposed to do, and you're mixing up your coverages, you should be pretty fine, because you should be well off if you're Michigan, because obviously we saw that C.J. Stroud, they've had some troubles, especially these past couple of weeks, for what it's worth against Maryland.
And inclement weather. Inclement weather. And I think, that's every offense probably doesn't perform well in that goodness gracious, some of the weather they've been playing in. But it's still, point being, they've struggled in bad weather.
But I think you got to control the passing game somehow. And I think the only way that you can do that is just being physical and trying to impose your presence on those wide receivers, because in my mind, Michigan has struggled just as much as Ohio State has these past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And C.J. Stroud, I think he's looking at this game. He's looking at shots because I think he's going to throw for a lot of yards. But I'm just saying the key to the game for me is that Michigan secondary, can they control those wide receivers? Can you make Marvin?
Good luck there.
Exactly.
Denzel, I don't know if you've watched much of OSU this year. They got a stable of wide receivers that are a problem. They have a bunch of them. I mean, it's not just one guy. In fact, the guy that everybody thought was going to be far and about the best wide receiver in college football has been hurt pretty much all year, and they haven't missed a beat, because Marvin Harrison Jr., yeah, you heard me right, Marvin Harrison Jr. is out there. Granted, guys, if I'm mistaken, I wish Hummus was in here. He is a whiz on all things Ohio State. Maybe he is, and he just hasn't commented. Hummus, if you're in here, comment down below. Let me know if I'm right. Marvin Harrison Jr., I believe, was the first freshman when he came in to have the black stripe removed. Ohio State does a thing when their freshmen come in early. You have to earn it. You have to earn that black stripe being removed. And if I'm not mistaken, he was the first guy. That was a class that included guys like Jack Sawyer. I mean, dudes in that class. And there he was. Now, I do want to talk about a game that we kind of talked about the quarterback for, because this was the game going into last weekend. I had as my game of the week, USC, UCLA. Drew, talk to me about what you saw in this, because this was a phenomenal matchup.
It was a phenomenal matchup. I did not get to watch a lot of it, most unfortunately, because I was in the stadium at Bedlam, but got to go back and watch some of the highlights, and the way Caleb Williams just refused to go down. And I think he is that one of those dudes, and as much as it pains me to hear about his success and everything like that, obviously leaving Oklahoma and going that, he is just that dude, man. He is a hell of a quarterback. He can make all the throws. He can run. He can make things happen with his legs. And so it was just the inability of UCLA to get off the field, I think, on some of those downs, because they had him in 3rd and long a couple times. They had some situations where they could have pinned their ears back and went after him, and and just weren't. And some of the problems that Oklahoma's had, it kind of was the same thing, as they just couldn't get off the field on those key third downs and kept some drives alive for USC. And USC did enough on defense and Alex Grinch to slow down their offense just enough to get that win. So it was a good back and forth game from what I heard. Would have loved to watch the whole game, but we were too busy beating Oklahoma State. So
see, I cut y'all's game off probably about 5 minutes into the second quarter because I was like, dear God, y'all are slaughtering them. And I went to watch that.
Yeah.
Guys, Caleb Williams threw for just shy of 500 yards. Get this, 74.4 completion percentage with an average of 10.9 yards per attempt. That's dumb. That is honest to God dumb. Denzel, talk to me about trying to stop a quarterback like Caleb Williams, somebody who might be, at the very least, is as good on the run as he is on the pocket. But I think there might be a principled argument. He's at his best when he escapes the pocket and is able to freestyle. How difficult is it to stop a guy like that?
Man, I know in the past, the quarterbacks that we struggled with the most were, the scrambling type quarterbacks, the quarterbacks that could, you could do a lot of play action bootleg with, that had, good feet that could escape the pocket. Because, you shut down receiver number 1, you shut down receiver number 2, you shut down receiver number 3, then he scrambles outside of the pocket. 1, 2, and 3 will briefly become open, which we call that scramble drill. And, once you get past 3 seconds covering a guy, 4 seconds, it's pretty much impossible once you get into 5, 6, 7 seconds and there's no sack and the ball hasn't been thrown away and it hasn't been, dumped off to a running back or a fullback. The receiver is going to be open. So him, being able to extend the play like that, it's really difficult. It's almost like you can't stop it, but, it's really all D-line play. You get you a spot and you have really good D-line and it eliminates a lot of that. But, if he's a good QB.
He's got a cannon attached to his body. He has got a real big arm. And, we have Dave pointing out that, that UCLA defense, it hasn't been great against the pass. And you're right, Dave, it hasn't. And they gave up 5 touchdowns to Bo Nix against Auburn. And you're right. But at the end of the day, he still went out there and did it, right? To go 74% completion percentage with almost 500 yards and an average attempt of 10.9 yards per attempt, you can go up against a bad defense, and that's still at some level very impressive. You're talking about 1/4 of his throws are not making it. That's it. 3/4 of his throws are on target, and he's throwing for a first down a pop. It's not like he's dumping it to his running back, right? You know what I mean? Like, this is impressive stuff. How will they finish out? I don't know. I'm really interested about Notre Dame, seeing what Marcus Freeman's going to scheme up, trying to take them and take some pressure off of his secondary to try and get Caleb uncomfortable. Jay Morris says Oregon State contained him all 4 quarters. They did. I'm going to actually be super interested to go back and watch what Oregon State did and how they were able to do it so comfortably, because they absolutely did.
I think Marcus Freeman will probably be watching that film too.
Yeah, he's going to watch it. He'll be all over it.
I'll tell you what you got to do. You got to kill the GT counter.
You got to kill the GT counter, and you got to change what he sees pre-snap.
Exactly.
Man, that sounds all too familiar.
Yeah. As OU fans, we definitely know exactly
that Kennedy Brooks, Ramondre Stevenson, GT counter, boy. Let's talk a real side note real quick. You want to talk about former Oklahoma quarterbacks? Freaking Spencer Rattler.
What a day. What a day.
Hey.
Good night. Like, I was like looking at my phone while I was in the stadium, and I'm like, what? Like this dude was going off, and great for him, dude.
Did you see the interview of the player for South Carolina? What'd you do after second half? What adjustments did you see this, Denzel?
No, I did.
It's gold.
Yeah.
It is gold. I am sorry, guys. I'm going to be a little bit crass right now, but I'm quoting somebody, so it's all good. I think that's acceptable, right? I can say things if it's quote. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
He was asked, what adjustments did you make in the second half? He straight up looked at this reporter in the face and said, none. We just let our nuts hang. Yep. I was like, hey, sometimes that's all you do is you just show up to play. They crucified Tennessee. this past weekend. And one thing we talked about, as great as Tennessee was offensively, and even their rush defense was decently impressive, they had the number 128 pass defense in the nation out of 131 eligible teams. That's a liability. And I just never thought you were going to win a college football game with a defense that much of a liability in the passing game. Go ahead, Chris.
Spencer Rattler did some things out there that I never saw him do at OU. And he was climbing the pocket. He was basically his pocket presence was probably the best I've seen for Spencer Rattler since he's been in college. I mean, literally, he's going through his motion, he's going through his progressions, he's climbing, he's going up. He's feeling the pressure. I mean, he's finding guys.
And I think, too, he had the first time in a while, South Carolina, that offensive line protected him because it's not been good this year, you know. And, they somehow, some way, you know, got him protected, and he was picking the balls apart, man. It was went back and watched that highlights and a little bit of that game, and it was cool to see. So
it was a really cool thing to see because there was a lot of expectations for South Carolina and Beamer ball this year, and it hasn't come to fruition in the manner we expected. But if you're Spencer Rattler, that was the exact game you needed. That was the stage you needed against the team you needed to get your name back in the good graces. I really, really like that. Working, you have an interesting take here. And Chris, I want to pass this to you because this is something we've talked about.
Yeah.
Working says Oklahoma did not fit Rattler. Chris, I want to hear from you because you have talked to me before about where Rattler fits into the Lincoln Riley style quarterback and how you believe that was a downfall at Oklahoma.
I'll give the credit to my uncle for sure for pointing it out to me, but he's not a mobile quarterback. And in that Lincoln Riley system, you need a mobile quarterback who can 3 seconds is not there. Okay, I'm taking off, right? And a guy who can use his legs to keep the play alive and be able to make explosive plays with his legs, like you see Caleb Williams do. That's the problem that you kind of that's what makes you fearful about a Malachi Nelson. Malachi Nelson is just as talented as Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, and a lot of guys in this class. But the problem is he actually mobile? And I'm not talking about high school mobile. I'm talking about college, this Division I type mobile.
Yeah, that speed is a whole lot different.
Exactly. And so that kind of hurts you, especially with our offensive line. Though those 2 years, it took them a while to kind of come into their own. But last year, obviously, they gave him no help. And so that was another problem. He's not mobile enough to kind of mask some of those holes that the offensive line has, especially in the interior and one side of your one of your tackles is not that great. It's just all it equates to is just a disastrous season for you, and that's what happened to him. I'm not gonna say he didn't fit because obviously Lincoln saw what he saw in him in his 2020 season. He was lights out whenever he had time, but that's always been a problem. He hasn't really played with a great offensive line. And also, like I said, he's not mobile. And so with him not being a mobile threat like a Kyler or Jalen Hurts or even a willing runner, as Joel Klatt described Baker.
I think that's a great description of Baker.
Yeah.
Denzel, you played against Baker, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
He was pretty arrogant. No, not Baker.
Not Baker.
No way. You must be thinking about Kyler.
He wasn't grabbing his nuts at y'all too, right?
Yeah, man. Now Baker, he's one of those players where it's like you love him if he's on your team, but if you're playing against him, he's just somebody.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine he's the type where he's letting you know, like what's up. Like, yeah, that I bet that's fun though. After the game, at least.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It is. Yeah, he's for sure a talker though.
That's I would have given anything to heard y'all mic'd up back then, man. That would have been awesome.
I wish we had mic'd up back then. That's crazy. I wish you would have had it.
Boy, it's probably a good thing for the world we didn't.
Oh yeah.
It's probably a real good thing. Now,
blur it out.
Denzel, I want to hear from you on this as we're winding down. Right? It's early, but we need to have the conversation. College football playoffs are a ways away, I don't think there's going to be too much debate as to the top 4 teams. I think in any particular order, everybody here would probably have Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU as your top 4 in whatever particular order. I want to hear from you about your outlook on college football playoff this year. And then also talk to me about who you think has the best chance to win the Heisman. And same goes for you, Drew, and Chris after Denzel.
The college football playoff, I mean, yeah, like you said, those 4 teams, that's my pick. I highly doubt it's going to change. I don't see any one of them losing in the next few weeks. So, and I honestly probably feel that the 1, 2, 3, and 4, the order is probably going to be pretty much the same. Also, I don't think the teams are going to change. I'm looking forward to it being extended, to not just 4 teams. That'll be cool to see. It'll make it more interesting. As far as Heisman, I don't know, man. I mean, I want to see my boy Max Duncan up there, but I know he's not going to get it. He doesn't have enough fans, but he has some good numbers. You know what I mean? So,
he was probably in school when you were there, huh? He's so old.
Oh, now you're aging us.
That's crazy.
Yeah, now you're aging Denzel and I. Jeez.
Oh, I probably take the cake out of everybody here. I'm probably might be the oldest out of the 4. I don't know. So,
no, I think Chris is one of those. He's probably over there 65, a sturdy 65. That's a 65-year-old suit right there. That's what that is. That's
hey man, don't let him talk to you like that. I mean, that suit was clean, man.
I already told him the suit was clean. He knows I love that pink tie.
I don't know.
We gotta get back on track. Sorry.
You know I'm your favorite, Chris. I do want to talk about this. Clean, you said does anybody know any recruiters? I have a 6'2", 210 3-star QB trying to get offers. His career stats are 6,933 total yards and 80 touchdowns, 27 games. And you said he's in Colorado.
Goodness gracious.
I don't know of anybody out there, Clean, but here's what I would do. I would try and follow someone like a Nick Harris on Twitter. He's for Rivals. He's a national recruiter. Or hit up some of the guys in the Colorado space for Rivals, 24/7, on 3. See what they're talking about. Because, I mean, the stats are there. If he's a 3-star quarterback, I mean, he's already at some level getting
for me
some play.
As a high school football coach, there's a lot of questions that I would have. I would have. I mean, obviously, there's a lot there. And has he been to camps? Has he done some things? Is he on anybody's radar? Stuff like that. Have you filled out any recruiting questionnaires? Stuff like that. There's things that you can do to get. And if I can be any help to you, go DM me on Twitter or something like that. I can probably point you in the right direction to some people like that to get you. But yeah. Any schools you're interested in, I would obviously be sharing huddle film and different stuff to those guys and bugging the crap out of those coaches is what you got to do there. So
yeah,
and have your high school football coach. I don't know what kind of relationship y'all have there, but they usually a lot of guys will do a good job of trying to put their names out there too. So,
and another thing, I'll have Denzel talk about this. Denzel, from a player. What do you think would be something incredibly helpful that someone could do? What would your advice be as a player?
Oh man. You better start DMing and emailing and you got to get on, you got to talk to your head football coach because they're going to have more connections than you are.
Yep.
They're going to be, that's the head coach is going to be the one that the college is going to talk to first before they talk to you. So you gotta talk to the head coach. You gotta start emailing, start DM.
Find the director of recruiting for some of these schools. Throw your huddle links into their DMs. I mean, you gotta go knocking on doors.
Yep,
literally. That's it.
I was just gonna say, hell, he's at Colorado. He's in Colorado. He's just show up there. I'm sure he's probably that guy. right now.
Honest to God, he could probably.
He might start. They might put him in for the bowl game, but no, they're not going to bowl.
Tape and some pads and say, "Hey, I'm here. What's up? Like, what's good?"
Clean. Here's what you should do: follow Drew England on Twitter. He's a high school coach, and he is going to be probably the best person to be able to kind of point you in some help.
But like Denzel said, I would go sit down and if you haven't had a conversation with your head coach, that's your first line of business and your position coach.
Hey, Georgia Tech would be a great offer.
Yep, they would get you to where you need to go. If you haven't had those, and then what year is he too? That's a big.
He's graduating this year.
Okay, yeah. Just go have that conversation with your head football coach. That's probably your quickest and initial thing that you really need to do.
Clean as well. Hit up I know at a university you might try University of North Texas. I graduated from there right here in Denton, Texas. It's not known as a great football school, but they've put guys in the NFL. In fact, Jason Bean, who plays for Kansas, transferred out of UNT to Kansas, and he's had a hell of a season in relief of Jalen Daniels. Hit them up because they could damn sure use the quarterback help. I have no doubt about that. Hit up some of those schools, but follow Drew on Twitter. We can see if we can't get you any help there. That'd be awesome to see if he could try and pursue his dream.
Coach_England1 if you find me there on Twitter.
Yeah, hit him up there. See if we can't get you some help. So I was recruited to UNT for football. I was recruited to UNT, but not for football. They wanted me for everything else but football. It wasn't for football.
Yeah. Also, you can if you want to DM me his huddle stuff. I have a friend that coaches Colorado, so I can give him a shout too.
Yeah, Denzel, if you wouldn't mind giving your Twitter out, clean. I don't know if you heard that. Definitely, Denzel played safety for Gary Patterson, then went on to play in the NFL. This dude knows football like the back of his hand. He is, he's the guy to know. So if you wouldn't mind, Denzel, what's your Twitter real quick?
It's Denzel Johnson 30.
Denzel Johnson 30.
Yep.
Hit up those guys on Twitter, clean, and we'll see if we can't get something shaken. That'd be awesome to get that kid on to college, on to pursue. And like Day says, don't be afraid about D2. Don't be afraid about that, man. Playing college football is a gift.
There's spots out there. If you want to continue playing football out there and you got a passion for it and you have like the stats and everything like that as well.
Don't laugh at me, Truth.
Yeah. So big smash. I'm in Tulsa too, man.
JUCO is always there.
Yep. There's some ways to continue to keep playing football.
No doubt about it.
Passion for it for sure.
No doubt about it. Now, Drew, Chris, before I get too off topic, y'all know how I am. Y'all got to reel me back in. I want to hear from y'all. Drew, what are you thinking about Heisman and possible playoffs?
Well, like I said on my show last week, for those of you who don't know, I do the Under Official Review podcast on YouTube, everything like that. Me and my buddy Zach Merrill, who's an Ohio State fan. So if you guys want some good takes this week from a Buckeye fan and some perspective on that big game, hit us up. We'll be doing our preview show here in the next couple days. But I said last week, and I'm gonna still hold to it because it was my pick at the beginning of the year. I picked Ohio State to win the national championship. I'm still gonna stay with that pick just because I'm stubborn and whatever. I don't know, but I still think they can do it. I still think they have the offense and defense to get it done. And Heisman. Oh boy, it's gonna be a fun race between Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud, but I like CJ Stroud. I think Ohio State is gonna take the 2 for 2 there on that one. So I'm gonna go Buckeyes in both of those categories.
Buckeyes in both, love it. Chris, what about yourself?
Much as I hate to say it, I think Lincoln gets his third, and I think we see yet another USC hype video with Baker, Kyler, and now Caleb Williams.
Taking credit for all those first-round picks. Yeah.
Exactly. I think you see it. So, yeah.
And look, here's where I do agree with you, Chris. If we look at the path from now until New York, you got to love the linear path Caleb has. If he's able to get over Notre Dame, and guys, don't look now, and let me make sure this is right before I say this. I think that Oregon's pass defense is a pretty big liability. Let me make sure that I have that right. I'm not mistaken, they're like 120 in the nation or something. It's not good, right? Out of 131 eligible. Passing yards allowed. We have Oregon coming in at 122.
Ty, don't get caught up in all of that.
No. I hear you. But here's the thing.
This is Lincoln Riley. I think
you're right.
I think he could say the same thing. No matter how bad your defense is, if you come in there and do A, B, and C, you don't even have to do the entire alphabet. You come there and do A, B, and C and just do your job and play discipline, you'll have a chance to beat them because Lincoln Riley, sometimes his play calling is, we're dealing with it right now with Levy, is questionable.
Sure, but I think that's where it gets to what we were talking about early.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb is most dangerous when the play breaks down and he's out of the pocket, and now it's anybody's game. And if you're the number 122 pass defense in the nation and you got to cover the Bolitnikoff Award winner from a year ago, God help you. God help you, because it couldn't be me. That's exactly why I'm sitting here. It absolutely wouldn't be me. Any coach that put me out there would get fired in a heartbeat, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm just saying, I don't look rat poison. You know that
rat poison. Yeah. Fair.
Take it. Fair. Don't take it. They baiting you right now. Don't take it. And I would love to see the USC Oregon matchup. Why? Because Lanning and his assistant coaches talked a lot of noise about Lincoln Riley and what they did to them in the past in that Georgia game. They talked a lot of noise. So.
Yeah, I think that's the matchup I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I just think it's the best. I've said this all the time, Denzel, and I'm interested in hearing from you. When Oregon figures out the NIL fund completely, and if they are able to get on a level where they're competitive, God help college football, because they have the ability to mobilize something up there. If they ever figure it out with NIL, with everything they have, I think, does that seem reasonable to you?
That is, I would agree with that. I've talked to a lot of people that went to play at Oregon, and none of them have said anything bad things about Oregon. Every athlete that goes up there, they all love it, whether it's football, track, basketball, baseball, all that. So, yeah, I would agree with that.
And then they have the Nike money, man.
Yeah.
Gosh, dude, if they could tap into that.
Yeah,
man.
That's not
and then somehow do a gear type of deal or something like that, there's nobody that can match it.
I don't understand why Phil Knight hasn't just said, hey, David Hicks, come here and you'll be able to design your own shoe. You'll be the first college.
Dude, that would be untouchable. Like,
crazy.
I would wonder, though, like, Chris, I think it'd be super interesting. You and I one day, whenever we have time, God knows when that'll be. Probably definitely after the football season, especially because playoffs and recruiting is about to heat up. It'll be out. We need to really dive deep into the NIL laws and figure out if there's something like a massive corporation like that, like what protections. You get what I'm trying to basically say here?
Like how it just wraps around and envelops the whole thing. Because
Nike's, they have brand deals with all these colleges. So like, what would they be able to do specifically with Oregon? Like, how would that, I'd be super interested to dive deep into the NIL laws and then figure out like what would be possible. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because God forbid, man. Going up there, that'd be wild. That would be absolutely wild. There's a few schools, though. Texas A&M figured out the NIL stuff, and it hasn't helped them. So it's certainly a lot more than that. That oil money is real. That oil money is real. What are the NIL laws? What's the tampering laws? Matt, it's the wild, wild west. Guys, I've said this, and I'm going to mess the dates up, so don't quote me, but 2 years ago, the Supreme Court ruled on a case, and I think it was the NCAA versus Alford. Is that correct, Chris? NCAA versus Alford?
I think so.
In it, Justice Kavanaugh, of all the Supreme Court justices, and I point him out because if you go back and read his previous opinions, he's usually very pro-business. Whatever it is, if it's individual versus business, almost all the time he rules business. It is what it is. In the suit against the NCAA, Justice Kavanaugh made it a point to talk about the NCAA's antitrust structure and talk about how no other industry in the United States would get away with what the NCAA gets away with. In my opinion, he was opening up the door and basically begging any player, anybody involved with the NCAA, open up a lawsuit, We're interested in hearing it. We are interested in this. Primetime, I'm just coming in. What's the topic right now? Primetime, we're talking about NIL and kind of how it came to be and some of the intricacies about it. And this is some super interesting stuff, or at least I'm a nerd, so that doesn't mean anything. I'm interested by pretty much everything. But the reason why this is interesting and the reason why it's important to know NCAA versus Alfred, one, it opened up the possibility, or at least in my opinion, it showed us the Supreme Court was interested in the possibility of hearing cases involved with the NCAA and challenging the antitrust layout of the NCAA. Guys, it was about a week later. All of a sudden, NCAA figured out how to do NIL. All of a sudden, when the target is on their back, they know how to pay players. That's legal now. So this wasn't something, in my opinion, that was well thought out, that was something that was coming to. This was something that when the target got placed on the NCAA's back, they did whatever they could to self-preserve. And so they made NIL. So what protections are there? I mean, right now, the craziest part about NIL, Matt, is think about it like this. There were states in the United States that knew NIL would be coming at some point, such as Florida, and they were proactive in their NIL laws. Before NIL was ever legalized by the NCAA, they had passed NIL laws. The problem is that when the NCAA legalized NIL, there were no stops. So states like Florida, states like Alabama, during their first year of recruiting with NIL, they were handcuffed because their state laws were far more restrictive than the NCAA laws on what you could do with NIL. So we didn't even have states on the same playing field. You had some states that could do exponentially more than other states. That was the first problem with NIL. It wasn't a playing field. It was not an even playing field. It all went by state legislature, which in my opinion makes absolutely no sense when we're talking about something that absolutely is going to be interstate commerce, right? Whenever we're talking about the product of football and something that's national. I didn't understand how the NCAA was going to sit there and say, let the state governments decide it. How are they going to be on the same page? Nobody's on the same page in this country. And you think that's going to, like, I'm sorry. That made no sense to me.
I'm glad I've got you lawyer friends to weed through all that jargon, because I'm like, it's crazy.
It is. That's the problem, Fright. It is. And it makes no sense. Why isn't this and this is the biggest.
Well, and it can get into some other topics about other things as well, too. Why things are the way they are in legislation and all that.
Good God.
That's the point of. I was just gonna say that's the point of trying to have like a commissioner over all the leagues, over everybody. Yep. That way, it's kind of funneled through one system instead of having an NCAA who just seems to be pretty incompetent on the issue. Now you're having somebody to actually give them direction or give them kind of like an independent, body to rely upon. Right? You're kind of trying to take them out of the game and having a like one person to do it. And we could talk about that for days. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I think that's a video for another day, Ty. We'll probably have to definitely hook up for that one.
Yeah, and Day, this is one thing you've probably heard me say it. Drew, I don't know how you feel about NIL. I think everybody on the panel is pretty pro NIL in terms of like the players.
I am pro NIL, but there definitely needs to be some protections. Some more ironing out on some details and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm all for guys getting what they deserve, because they make millions and millions of dollars for these universities and everything like that, and they should get a piece of the pie, no doubt. But what does that look like in the future? I have no idea, and I think that's where we're all like, So
my biggest worry for NIL is bad faith actors entering into the space, and you have individuals who now have an economic opportunity in front of them that they never even realized.
That's where it opens the door for these boosters and donors and recruiters to kind of have their own hand in recruiting, and that's where I think it gets a little bit, and it has in the past. Let's not be naive to say that it doesn't happen at schools, and it happens all over the country, but it makes it more legal and okay to do that. And anytime you make something legal, it's gonna rear its ugly head even more. So there needs to be some guidelines and some.
I just want protections for the players, man. Yeah. My biggest worry is we need more protections to make sure these guys are not entering in predatory deals, because we know that college football is a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
And here's some things that guys don't understand too, and a lot of the players don't realize is, I'm earning this money, but it's also taxable, and I have to pay taxes, and I have to do all these things, and educating themselves on money in, money out, all this stuff, and it's like having a salary. It's like getting a check every month or whatever the case is, and understanding the legality behind it, and what all it entails, because it's not just free money. There's things that are strings attached and different stuff like that too. So hopefully in the future some of those things get figured out. But yeah, players definitely deserve a piece of the pie, and they need to be taken care of, but at the same time not at the expense of themselves and losing out on why they're at the university to begin with.
Guys, football Twitter is going crazy right now.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin is trending.
Denzel, I don't know if Lane Kiffin is trending, and we're not confirming anything. We have no knowledge. This is a tweet.
Yep.
This is a tweet. I'm going to actually pull up the tweet. Why not? Why wouldn't I?
Bro.
I'm going to pull up this tweet for everybody to see.
And Hayes Fawcett just put a big
I know, and PG is messing with me, sent the deal saying Caleb Downs flipped to Ohio State, and I almost had a heart attack on live stream. I do not.
Nick Saban is going to Auburn. They're going to do a little flip-flop,
Oh, don't you dare do that to me. Don't you dare do that to me. Okay.
Lane staying put, and he's going to actually go to Alabama, and then Lane is going to go to Auburn. So they're going to, yeah.
For whatever reason, I'm not able to share my screen right now. But extra cream. Oh, screen share. So this is just wild to me.
It's crazy. There it is.
Boom. Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin plans to step down as the Rebels coach Friday and head to Auburn to become the Tigers' next head coach, according to sources. Sources say the Tigers haven't officially offered the job to anyone yet, so Lane to Auburn is happening. Story soon. So believe it if you will. We'll see.
Yeah,
I love the Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, it's from a sports director covering Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and high school football in the state of Mississippi. So, I mean, we'll see what happens.
I already checked the Twitter because I think along with everybody else.
I think I sent it over to Chris, and I was like, let me check this out before I send it over. So
yeah, I think everybody else got.
It'll be it maybe if not, it'll just be more ratings for college football. So
Fatty says Saban to West Virginia. Hey, he was from out there.
Going back home.
That's where he met Miss Terry, working at the gas station. Jeez, that would devastate everybody. That'd be just the weirdest thing in the world.
Let's
West
just
Virginia.
Play a bunch of hypotheticals there.
No, if anything, he's going to go back to Kent State, where he played.
Hey, Mel Tucker's going to leave, and he's going to go back to Michigan State.
Oh, you know what? That's the one that I was looking at earlier. Thank you. It's not Mel Tucker, but it's another coach.
Actually, Nick Saban is going to go back and be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns.
Don't tell me that. Guys, do y'all know, does Charles Huff have any sort of relation to Georgia Tech? Did I imagine that somewhere?
Charles Huff?
Yeah. He's a name to watch out for that Georgia Tech job.
Yep.
I'm just going to put it out there. He's a name.
Put it on out there. Everything else is getting put out there, so you might as well just throw your stuff in there too.
Oh, and that's just my opinion. That is just my personal opinion on that. And I want that to be known. I've told y'all before, I'm no insider. I'm just somebody who talks college football, and here we all are. Frightening. He's not going back to the Dolphins. We're not running the Wildcat offense because they fail a quarterback. This isn't going to happen. Lane is gone. Yeah, it is wild. Guys, I want to give everybody their time to kind of get your last thoughts out of there. Just in general, what were your thoughts about this past week of college football, and what are your big thoughts going into this weekend of college football? Denzel, I'll start with you.
I'm just glad that, I'm glad the Vols lost. Thankful for Rattler. TCU, we finally solidified our number 4 spot because, it was kind of iffy. It was kind of shaky, and another committee, we're not, big fans of, anybody from the Big 12 unless they're Texas or OU. But,
Oh, no.
So, I'm thankful, man. And, it was a good weekend for college football, no doubt.
Great weekend. Drew, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I did not expect South Carolina to do what they did, and Spencer Rattler going out and having a party out there, and then obviously, yeah, we were walking down to Campus Corner and caught the end of the game on the big screen down there at TCU kicking the field goal. That was pretty epic. Yeah, I'm rooting for it, man. I'd love to see it. Love to see TCU find their way in the playoff, and who knows, maybe they'll have more success than we did. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting this week. Couple big games, rivalry week. Obviously, everybody's gonna be tuning into the Egg Bowl now to see what happens in Friday's. What transpires on Friday, so that'll be interesting as well with Lane Kiffin and whatever happens there, and yeah, Michigan, Ohio State, all that good stuff. But yeah, I'm just excited, and then obviously conference championships are right around the corner too, so all good.
All good. Chris, what are you thinking, man?
All right, man. Look, I'm gonna close it out the right way. Okay. Good Lord bless the good guys this week. All right.
I swear, if you say Auburn, if you say anything about,
I'm not saying anything about Auburn right now. Let me get it out.
I will mute you.
The good Lord bless the good guys. The Sooners rolled. Okay, they rolled to Oklahoma State. Sissy Cowgirls. So, with that being said, let's go to Texas Tech. Let's do the same thing, man. We're on a recruiting binge right now. It's just looking great, okay? You heard it here first. I got Notre Dame with the upset. I'm going to stick it out, and I'm going to say Ohio State wins, and they win big. Denzel, I got a question for you. Who wins this weekend in TCU, Iowa State?
I'm gonna go TCU, but
not so fast, my friend.
Wow. Not so fast, my friend.
Not so fast, my friend. Okay, statistically, you're playing.
This is a children's show. This is a family show, sir.
You're playing maybe the best defense in, statistically speaking, the best defense in the Big 12. Iowa State will have a good game plan. You guys have been escaping some of these losses that you should have took. Okay, the real Max Duggan shows up. Iowa State by 10 this weekend. That's what I'm calling it.
Man, we already got
Iowa
people
State
saying
by 10.
Hey, that's not the fun. We got people saying Gundy to miss Ole Miss. So,
oh god,
I don't know about that. Boy,
man said Iowa State by 10. Man, that's.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with that one. I think TCU is going to continue to win this week, but they may slip up in the Big 12 championship.
This is the same man that. To close every podcast, he waits because he knows we're going to have the spinning wheel of doom here at the end. It's just the StreamYard takes forever to get. Every week, he leaves me with, go Auburn, and then just dips into the night. Gone. Just gone. He is a straight menace to society, man.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. My brother-in-law is an Auburn fan as well, too, so I don't know.
Ty.
But I don't think they got a shot.
Yes, sir.
Ty, who gets the win this week in the Iron Bowl?
Well, it's not at Jordan Hare Stadium, so it's going to be Bama. And before you say not so fast, my friend.
I'm just saying. Robbie Ashford. This could be the story.
If Cadillac Williams was actually playing in the game, they might have a chance. But he's actually coaching, so he just got to watch the F-bombs after the press. If he wins this week, he can't be,
Yeah, I'm going to be very honest. Bama has not been the team everybody thought they'd be this year. It is what it is. Do I think they can beat Auburn? Gosh, I hope so. I hope so. They certainly have the talent. They have not been able to get out of their own way. I think let's be very honest, guys. This could be Bryce's last game. Could be. I know things that say he would sit out the bowl game, but we do know he's hurt his shoulder. He's playing with a hurt shoulder right now. His throwing shoulder. I wouldn't be mad at all if he chose to sit out that bowl game.
Prime time OU versus Miami in the Planet Fitness Bowl. I love it. Oh man,
that's pretty funny.
Hey, Chris, it's a bowl.
It's a bowl.
It's a bowl.
That's pretty funny.
Extra practices.
Frightening says a bad year is 10 wins.
Hey, shout out to Steven from Fanatic Perspective.
My God.
I get in our group chat yesterday and I say, hey, I said, Texas, man, y'all finally went out there and handled business. Y'all got that monkey off your back. And I said, Then I went on to say, hey man, that first quarter we played the way we played in that first quarter is the way that we thought we would play all year. He replies, congrats on bowl eligibility. And I'm sitting there just like, really? That's what we doing?
Thank you.
That's what we doing? 24 years, 24 seasons of bowl eligibility, and you guys are coming off a season where you didn't have it? Really? The Texas hate is real.
It is.
It's real. It's a real thing.
Every year, Denzel, I can't wait for next year. You're going to have to join us for the next one. Every year for the Red River rivalry. It goes down on this channel. Okay. We have the OU guys represented, and then we have the Texas guys represented, and it all goes down on the channel. And yeah, frightening. You're right. Steven's a unbelievable content creator. Steven, Nino, frightening. All of those guys are worth your subscription, worth your time watching their videos. They make top-notch content that I find myself watching consistently. And even at night when I can't sleep, if Steven is up streaming, I'm usually in his chats talking football. Great content. But with that, y'all, thank y'all for joining us this evening. We'll be back here at 5:30 Friday to talk about all of the games we will see this week and rivalry week. And what a week of college football we have ahead of us. College football is about to get a lot more interesting. The playoffs are right around the corner. National Signing Day and early National Signing Day are right around the corner. It's all coming to a head, guys. It's about to go wild. Transfer portal opens up in a week or so. It's about to get wild.
Yeah, early signing day.
Yep. And we're going to be here for it.
Cray.
I can't wait.
Well, before we get out of here, I didn't have y'all let the people know where they can find all y'all's great content or your Twitter. So go ahead and plug y'all self up. That way everybody can know where to find you. Go ahead, Chris.
All right, you guys can find me at.
Did you say Auburn by 40?
You guys can find.
He knows I got him.
You can find me at the Horns Down Pod on Twitter, Horns Down Podcast on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all of that. You guys can find me there.
Now, thank God he cut himself off before he got it out. Yes. Yeah, I didn't do anything.
That was great. You cut him out. Don't lie. You hit the button.
No, if I did that, I'd be the first to let you know. If I did, I'd be the first to let you know.
No, Coach England 1 on Twitter, Coach_England 1 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that. But our podcast, the Under Official Review Podcast, college football podcast, myself and Zach Merrill is my Buckeye fan. We do college football content. Had Ty on the show a couple times. Chris Plank, our guy, last week was fun. We're on Google, Spotify, Apple Music. We're on our YouTube channel. Just search us. You can find us. We're a new channel, so please give us some subscriptions, likes, comments. It means the world to us. We're just out here talking football and having fun. So I'm excited for the last little push here at the end of college football. Can't wait.
It's gonna be awesome, man. Denzel, where can everybody find you at?
Twitter, Denzel Johnson 30. Same thing for Instagram, Denzel Johnson 30. Those are really only two platforms I'm on right now. I don't have a podcast.
He's going to be featured on this one though, so this is where you can find him.
Hey, I've already followed him, so I'm here for that. So
okay, cool. So I'll be on these two guys' shows. So
yeah,
just follow along.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot of fun. But thank y'all for joining us. We'll see you on Friday, and y'all enjoy your Monday evening, Monday Night Football.
Hey, my Cardinals, let's go.
Yeah, what a way to begin the Thanksgiving break. Y'all enjoy your time with the family, and we'll see you on Friday. That's it.
All right.
See you. Now we have the infinite